I have few questions to myself. The question is, though for last 6 months, all over the world, we have been talking about this COVID. Still today, we have not really understood the complete picture of this COVID in terms of characteristics, terms of even the impact or symptoms. Why I'm saying this is, as on today, more than 70 lakhs of people all over the world, more than 70 lakhs are found infected with COVID. However, out of 70 lakhs, more than 4 lakhs of people have died. This is the seriousness. One disease in a short period of 6 months has infected more than 70 lakhs as per the test result goes. Those who are not tested, we do not know. And more than 4 lakhs are officially recorded as dead because of COVID. We do not know how many have died and not recorded. This is the seriousness. Here the question is, what is the incidence of COVID? How many are really affected? How many are showing symptoms? How many are not showing symptoms? How many are showing symptoms? At least we get some data. How many are asymptomatic? Amongst us who are attending this conference, I don't think any one of us have undergone the test, RT-PCR or COVID test. We have not undergone. If we were to undergo this test, will it show something, some infection in us? This is the question. What is the incidence? What is the status? Looking at how many have recovered. Okay, we have a data from each country. How many have recovered? But those who have recovered have gone back. The disease has relapsed. Why? When we talk about prevention, when we talk about mitigation, we want on one hand to prevent, we want on the other hand to mitigate this COVID. Nature is already doing. Look at the scientific insight and the publication from Gustavo and the team. Fantastic work. A truly commendable work by observing nature. At high altitude, at Leh, Ladakh and Tibet, in Lhasa, in Bolivia and Altiplano, the incidence of COVID is very, very low, or in some parts negligible. What is the reason? Is it ultraviolet radiation? Is it clean air? Is it hypoxia? Is it some genetic factor? If you look at the multiple variants which could have had an influence of preventing humans, preventing animals getting infected with COVID. Anyway, the work is going on. Look at sea level. Very surprisingly, I must tell you, very close to Indian state Kerala, my friend Varki, I can see you here, very close to from where Dr. Varki comes from, there's an island called Lakshadweep. Something very interesting I must tell you. This is a small island where there are limited number of population. There is no vegetation. The only animal you see is a sheep or a goat which eats fish because there is no vegetation. It's a non-vegetarian goat, non-vegetarian sheep. the way he's speaking people, like Maldives, but till today, in this Lakshadweep, not even a single case of COVID is reported. Not a single case. How? Why did it happen? It's really mind-boggling. Is it because the whole island got locked up? Nobody went. Only locals are there. I tell you, after December, from the tourism department of Kerala, I found out not even a single human being from any part of the world, including India, went to Lakshadweep. Lakshadweep has no COVID. Let me go to Andaman Nicobar Islands. Andaman Nicobar Island, there are few cases of COVID. This is again sea level. When you look at it, why? Because the season was not very favorable because of possible cyclonic storms and things like that. The tourists were minimal, especially from India. For outside India, for other foreigners, they need multiple permits, whether it is Andaman or Nicobar. But the locals there, Jarwas, Incas, Sentinelians, when you see the locals with a unique genetic profile, not even a single tribal person got a COVID. Go to Ladakh. Ladakh has two kinds of people. People like you and me who go there for as a tourist, as adventurer. I myself is a mountaineer. I like trekking. If you go to Ladakh, if you go to interior of Ladakh, go to Panglong, people are living there. You go to a place where there's a double-humped camels are there. There are Gujars there. There is not even single case of COVID from the locals of that altitude. I'm sure my friend Professor Gustavo will agree with me. There might be few cases in La Paz, which is at 13,800 feet, like the altitude of Leh. But at Altiplano, the locals, they may not have any incidence of COVID infection, though there is a lot of testing facility. Friends, we have in front of us two things. One is to detect COVID, to find out who is infected, who is not infected. I would like to thank our leader in encouraging, supporting, bringing out the testing facilities in India, Dr. Virus Ravi. Thank you, Dr. Virus Ravi. You have touched our heart. And Dr. Ravi's contribute day and night. I thought he's retired and tired. He is not retired. He is not tired. He has been working 24 hours a day. He is on several committees. And I tell you, if in India, if we have more than 620 COVID testing laboratories, of which about 430 are only the government, rest are all 260 are accredited as per our National Accreditation Board for Testing and Calibration of Laboratories, because this is ICMR requirement. Any COVID testing laboratory must have an approval from ICMR. ICMR gives approval only if the private corporate diagnostic labs are accepted, approved through an accreditation. Therefore, my topic today, the most important backbone of the entire understanding of COVID. Pardon me, I'm not showing any PowerPoints. I'm only giving a very powerful speech. I hope this is recorded. Now my topic starts about accreditation. Any laboratory, anywhere in the world, when they do testing for COVID on any human or on any animal, when they test for COVID in humans, they must comply with two requirements as per the international standard ISO 15189. This is a beautiful number, magic number, 15189. This 15189 has three parts. First two digits, first two numbers, that 15 is a group for medical testing. The last two numbers, 89, is a guide created by scientists like you, pathologists, microbiologists, virologists, biochemists, molecular biologists. They got together, they created a guideline. Therefore, the 89 is the guide by professionals. This recommended guideline was accepted by ISO. They added this to that group 15 for medical with for in vitro diagnostics only. What is that in vitro diagnostics? Not going into the system and testing, but taking some tissue out of the system and testing. The human samples, which is extracted, whether it's a sputum, whether it is a blood, whether it's urine, whether it is some body fluid, is tested. That specific number is the middle number 1. Therefore, we all know that 15189. That 15 is for the medical, 89 is the guide, 1 for the in vitro diagnostics for medical testing. Friends, all over the world, if the laboratory for the COVID testing, if they comply with the requirement of this international standard for only two things, quality and competence. The quality of all the resources used, including the environment, partitioning, equipment, manpower management, information, calibration, look at the documentation, validated procedures. These are all what are called resources. There are hardware resources, software resources, then personal, all these resources must be handled only by competent people. This ISO 15189 standard all over the world expects only two things in a COVID testing laboratory. Number 1, all quality resources to be operated, handled by competent people. For this, preliminary training, for this, the ensuring their availability is given by government institutions like in Bangalore, NIMHANS. Dr. Ravi is leading that. Thank you once again, Dr. Ravi, for training our laboratory people in this regard of quality resources and evaluating their competence through training. All over the world, this is happening. If there are, in India, I tell you, largest democracy in India, how many testing laboratories are there? We have more than 350,000 medical testing laboratories. 350,000. I got this number because every primary health center in this country has a testing facility. They may not have COVID testing facility, but they have a testing facility. Like that way, they may test for protein in the urine of a pregnant lady, or they may test for glucose in the urine of a diabetic patient. Primary health centers do not have pathologists, microbiologists, virologists, biochemists. They have only some, not even a trained technologist. This is the scenario. We have a lot of opportunities to improve. We know the problem. Now, how many testing laboratories? Because no accreditation body in the world, no accreditation body gives accreditation to testing laboratory. They know nothing like my laboratory is accredited. Let us all remember, all over the world, there are laboratories, they claim we are NABL accredited, we are CAP accredited, we are QI accredited, we are NATO accredited. No, there's nothing like accreditation to any laboratory. What is accredited in any laboratory is the test methodology. Therefore, if the COVID testing is subjected to accreditation process by an accreditation body, if they find that they comply with the requirement of ISO 15189, which is the requirement for medical testing laboratories for quality and competence, they get the accreditation. There are laboratories in every city, they have out of 100 tests, some 20, 30 test methods accredited. They put a big board, our laboratory is accredited. It's fooling people, fooling clinicians, fooling themselves. Therefore, accreditation, it's a voluntary process. It's not mandatory. Unless regulatory agency, unless legislation comes into picture, accreditation cannot be made mandatory. In this case of COVID testing, in India, if any laboratory wants to do COVID testing, they can do it. But if they want recognition, if their report has to get recognized, then they have to get accredited. ICMR has come out with a recommendation in the private sector, in the private, not in the government, in the private sector. If anybody, any laboratory wants to get their RNA virus to be testing to be accredited, they don't say COVID testing. If RNA virus with RT-PCR or any method is recognized, they say get it accredited by NABL. Now here, NABL is not a government body, because as per international standard organization, as per the world topmost body called ILAC, International Laboratory Accreditation Corporation, any accreditation body shall not be part of the government. We must remember, whether it's in Australia, USA, or in Bolivia, or in India, accreditation body which is representing the ISO standard, which is permitted to use the ISO standard inspection, is a private body, registered society. Even NABL is under the Quality Council of India. I am the principal advisor to the Quality Council of India. I tell you, even Quality Council of India is not a government body. We cannot use the government symbol. It is a society, it's a council. Of course, council is under the supervision of several government representatives because of certain requirements. However, in a small country like Thailand, small country like Korea, why they are able to do so many testing? Why in USA, with 1/3 or 1/6 of our population, how USA could do more than 60,000 COVID testing? Why? It's because in USA, there are more than 6 accreditation bodies who are permitted to go and check and grant accreditation for COVID testing. What about in India? In India, we have only one accreditation body which is recognized to go and grant accreditation for COVID testing. Which is that body? NABL. I am associated from the day one of NABL, from the day of formation. I know how difficult it is for only one body located in Haryana with only 15, 20 accreditation officers for the whole country to manage. You can imagine the pressure on the work. When there is a greater pressure, limited resources, quality suffers. That should not happen. Therefore, what my recommendation, like what has happened in Japan or in Korea or in China or in Australia or in US or any other country, any country must have more than one accreditation body. We have in India, we have 6 accreditation bodies. All the 6 accreditation bodies must come forward, must reach out to the needy laboratories. Then probably in India, we will reach more than 6 million testing. It can happen. Now, accreditation is a process. In fact, when you look at the government establishments, except few government hospitals like NIMHANS, from where Dr. Ravi is representing and sitting here, NIMHANS is accredited for many tests in all the disciplines, pathology, microbiology, virology. They are accredited for the testing. Now, may not be 100%, but most of our government laboratories in this country, from where I'm talking, they are not accredited for the COVID testing. Why? When I interacted with the advisor to ICMR, I learned that on 3 important points, the ICMR has waived the accreditation requirement to government labs. What are they? Number 1, he said the government appoints only qualified personnel. They do not appoint somebody who is not qualified. I agree. Whereas in the private sector, there could be somebody who is not qualified, may be appointed. I have seen laboratory directors who are not even medical personnel in private sector. Number 2, in the government, there is a transparency in the procurement of resources, whether it is PCR, they call for quotation, there is a selection committee, they get some experts from outside, they select, procure it. How they maintain, that is a different issue. But there is a very well-established government procedures in procurement of resources. When all the resources, 8 resources are procured and the quality is assured by the government establishment where we have full faith and trust, where there are competent people. Under this crisis, ICMR said, let the government establishment and government laboratories attached to hospital, let them take up this COVID testing. Of course, there are minimal requirements which are checked, which are verified, and they might not have gone through ISO 15189 requirement, and it is not certified by third party. The third party certification here is a accreditation body certification. Let me come to the private sector. I personally visited in last 2 months more than 16 private run, corporate run medical testing for COVID facilities. In fact, I took the help of Dr. Ravi in number of cases in recommending them to participate in exchange of sample to ensure the quality. Now, in the private sector, my personal experience, it may be true in other countries also. In the private sector, there are certain shortcomings because most of the private sector, unlike government, they are dependent upon the revenue they earn to run the laboratory. Private sector do not get any financial support from the government. Whereas in the government, including the buildings, staff, equipment, everything comes from the government. The people, the management don't have that much of financial constraints or worries in the government sector. Of course, there are a lot of paperwork to get even one screwdriver. Okay, in the private sector, when they have to invest huge money, I'm sure Dr. Malali Gowda will agree with me. He has worked in both the sectors. What is happening in the private sector? If they invest, say, 100,000 today, they would like to get it back because they would have taken loans from various banks. They would have invested money from various sources. Hence, they are looking at charging the patients. Now, in a huge country like ours, where more than 80% of our population cannot afford to pay, they do not have any financial support either from insurance or from any other agency, how can they pay when the price is fixed around 4,000 or 5,000? How can they pay? Out of pocket, not all are covered under insurance. I do not know whether insurance has covered the COVID testing. How can, if I get COVID tomorrow, if I have to undergo test, where will I go? Do I have money as a retired person to pay that huge money? It is not one time. I may somehow take loan and pay for 4,800 and get tested. I get negative result. But I may be a carrier. Maybe after a few days, I may be positive. Again, I may have to undergo testing. My family members may have to undergo testing if I have proved positive. Where can I generate 20, 30,000 rupees for a family of 5 members? This is the problem. Solution. Every problem has a solution. Please remember, if there's a problem without any solution, it is no longer a problem. By dictionary meaning, a problem means something, an event which has a solution. Now, solution for this. When I look at the accreditation, again, there are three drivers. There are three drivers which is pushing the laboratory to go in for accreditation. Let me take COVID testing. So many laboratories who are already accredited for some tests in their laboratory wants to go in for COVID testing accreditation, the private sector. Why? One is there is a regulation. Unless they are accredited, they are not recognized, they are not approved by the ICMR. That is a regulatory requirement. Second thing, 10 laboratories in that region, they are accredited for COVID testing. This laboratory is not accredited. All the 10 laboratories are getting 200, 300 samples a day, whereas this laboratory is not getting any test sample. This is a mere competition. If they want to compete with another laboratory, they need to go in for this third party recognition called accreditation. The third thing, driver, important driver, is third party payment organization. If any one of us wants to get our COVID testing, we will be very happy if insurance agency reimburses that money. The insurance agency, the third party payment organization will say, we will reimburse your money only if you get your test done in the COVID testing accredited facility. Therefore, what will I do? As a common man, I will go, I will take my mother to only that laboratory which is already accredited for COVID testing. That is the third party payment organization. That is the insurance agency. This is the time I strongly recommend that insurance agencies must come forward. I am willing to pay premium for me and my family. None of us are now COVID patients. We are healthy, we are happy. I don't know when I am going to become COVID patient. But on that day, I would like to have third-party payment organization. For that, I am ready to pay. When I interviewed more than 100 people, all of them agreed. They said, is there any insurance for COVID testing? There's no insurance for COVID treatment. There's no treatment. But still, hospitals, they charge up to 6 to 7 lakhs for 10 days of admission in private. 6 to 7 lakhs for 10 days admission. Myself and Tagore, we are concerned about that. We are approaching the government. We are approaching private hospital associations. We are approaching the regulatory agencies to take a look into this. Friends, what I'm trying to tell you, if a third-party payment organization comes forward to reimburse my testing, let them charge me the premium. I'm ready to pay. If I'm diabetic, if I'm old, let them charge more premium because I am at higher risk. The other driver for any laboratory to go in for COVID testing today is public demand. Because as per the accreditation, international accreditation body guideline, accreditation is not mandatory, it's voluntary. It should be driven by the public. Public demand should make the testing facility getting accredited. In Australia, the National Accreditation Testing Agency started in 1943 as a wartime test house scheme. That was part of the government. Then they got it converted into NATA. That became government body. But they were not recognized by the international agency till 6 years ago. Until 6 years ago, when NATA came out of the government fold, they got recognition. Therefore, accreditation bodies should be an independent body, should be driven by third-party payment organization. The demand for accreditation should come from the public, and the accreditation bodies should recognize the testing laboratory on a regular basis, because the accreditation body itself is under accreditation by the regional body like APAC. In this region, Asia Pacific Accreditation Cooperation, but in American other body, in in Middle East, there is SANAS. There are different regional bodies. All regional bodies have formed the international body. Now, if this is the crisis, this is the time when huge democracy like India and similar countries must have more than one accredited, many accreditation bodies recognized, approved by the authority to go ahead and inspect and grant accreditation. If we can do that, we can save our people. If we depend upon only one accreditation body in a huge country, I tell you, we are not going to, we will not be able to face the problem. We will not be able to solve the problem. We are not going to save the people. We are going to lose the time, lose our manpower. We are going to lose children. We are going to lose people with wisdom. We will, apart from that, we are going to lose huge economy, because the manpower, the working hours will be reduced. The manpower will be lost. Eventually, the economy, the commerce of the country will collapse. If Japan, South Korea, if they have succeeded today in maintaining their economy, it's because of the testing facilities. They are able to test every other citizen of that country. Why we have not realized? I want the laboratories to come forward. I want the accreditation bodies to come forward. I tell you, in India right now, I can strongly recommend, in addition to NABL, the Quality Accreditation Institute, ACAB, to come forward. Come on, friends, approach ICMR, show your credentials, show your track record, show your capability, and get approval and go to the interior. Today, most of the COVID testing facilities are in A-class cities. We don't have in B and C-class cities. Bijapur may have, but interior of Bijapur may not have. Bangalore has. I don't know whether Kanakapura, Ramanagaram and other places have. Mandya. Do we have testing facility? When we have constraints on travel, constraints on transporting samples, should we not have? At every taluka level hospital, can we not create facilities? In fact, one of the recommendations which my team made to World Health Organization, for every 10,000 population, within 10 kilometer radius, without 10 miles radius, there should be one recognized COVID testing laboratory. It is like buying our requirements. I cannot walk, I cannot travel for 10 kilometers to buy my onion or tomato or garlic. Similarly, I should not unnecessarily travel, spend money and my time to go to a laboratory which is 10 miles away, 20 miles away. Most of the cities in my country, the COVID testing facilities are concentrated in downtown area, not in the outskirts of the city. There are several reasons for that. Friends, I have taken much of your time. My concern is, I would like to give you take-home message. Encourage laboratories to equip themselves with quality resources, appoint competent people, get them trained by authority, and let them demonstrate their competence through an accreditation by any accreditation body which is recognized. The accreditation body need to comply with another standard, 17011. Any accreditation body, if it is complying with 17011 requirement, they should be given a complete, empower them to go and do third-party certification. This is the time, this is the hour, and if we have to prevent, if we have to get the early picture of the status of COVID in any community or any society, in any group, we need to do testing. Testing is the backbone. Testing is the foundation. Testing is the only solution for answering many questions tomorrow. But testing is preventive. It helps us to prevent. When we test somebody is positive, we can contain them. Testing is a preventive measure. It is not a corrective measure, but treatment is a corrective measure. We have not come to the treatment part. We have not come out with the immunization program. We have not come out with the medicines. There are different views. My friend from Italy is here. No, they are using aspirin now to make thicker blood, thinner blood. I tell you, Gustavo has already covered this. Kusal, you know that aspirin is recommended in our article, which is in the reprint. Friends, I request all of you, kindly spread this message. We, on priority, on war footing, we need to improve, increase testing facility. Reliable, affordable, acceptable testing facility. This is very important. Number two, we are not exporting any COVID from our country to another country. When we are not exporting like other products, there is no need for ISO 17011 to be complied. It doesn't come under WTO or GATT agreement. COVID result, COVID testing is not coming under GATT and WTO agreement, and hence it is for a local consumption. The COVID testing data is for local consumption within the country, and hence any accreditation body can come and do testing. One thing I would like to add, when people are traveling, today people are allowed to travel. When some group of workers are traveling from Northeast to Bangalore, Northeast to Chennai, Northeast to Mumbai, they travel for 36 hours, 24 hours by train. In the moving train, I have strongly recommended a moving laboratory. It is possible, the railways have agreed, one of the coaches in the railways can be converted into a COVID testing laboratory. That can be recognized. When people are traveling, suspected people who are under high risk, their swab can be taken, tested. When they get down at a destination, they know whether they are green or they are red. If they are green, they can go home. If they are red, they are quarantined. Otherwise, after they arrive, if we do that exercise of testing, we have to retain them. It's a big problem. Whether we do testing in the coach, moving coach, whether we do the testing in the laboratory after they arrive, the cost is same. Therefore, India can think of, for the first time in the world, can think of having a testing facility, a moving lab in every train where people are traveling. Testing is very important, whether at home, whether outside, whether in the moving vehicle. Aircrafts may start testing when they travel for 18, 20 hours. When they land, when they arrive, they know whether they're clean or not, whether they're COVID or not. Friends, future is going to change. Before they board the train, board the flight, they may get a report. They may have to get the report. If in any case, when they are traveling, if they acquire this disease, they need to be tested in a moving vehicle. Finally, genetic profile. Dr. Malali, you must take a lead role. There are certain communities like the high altitude dwellers with a different hypoxic gene. Look at them. They are different from you and me. The mixed gene lowlander who is married to a highlander, their children have not got COVID.